Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about what is port and why this port is very important in terms of scanning or information gathering. So, as you know, when we're talking about ports, in normal, ports refers to the dockyards where from our end, or you can say we use these ports to deliver the containers, the grocery items, the spices from one nation to another nation, like it's import and export. But how this port is related with us in the actual networking. Now, when we are talking about the packets, like we have to send or deliver the message from the sender point to the receiver end. So, how actually these packets or these messages are delivering to the correct users? So, this is nothing but with the help of these ports only. Okay. Now, when we are talking about ports, it's just a logical construction, you can say, or a process which help us to connect to the ongoing or running services within that network to get delivered content to the proper, or you can say to the legitimate uh, person only. Now, how we are delivering, or how this particular packets or the network is being connected from one end to the other end. So there is a term called as endpoint identification. Now, why endpoint identification comes in the reference when we are talking about the ports? So, actually, these ports act as an endpoint for communication itself. Now, as we know, endpoint is nothing but it's a kind of device where we get used to communicate to each and other person. Now we have different IP address for different devices. Like if you are using the Android or laptop, or any Mac, Apple, any devices, every device will have its different, or you can say a unique MAC address. And the second thing, that every devices will have the different IP address itself, whether it's IPv4 or IPv6. So this ports actually help us to travel our intended services or application from one end to the other end with the help of this IP address only. Now, this IP address is the logical address, just like our home address, where we can easily deliver our information. Okay, so over here, these ports are nothing but it's doing one kind of a services why with the help of delivering our message from one address to another address. Now let's talk about what is this ports, how they are being identified. Now when we are talking about ports, actually this ports have certain range, that is from 0 to 65535. Okay, so in total there are 65536 ports available. Now, how these ports are actually categorized so that the actual information will deliver to that port only. Okay, so they have been categorized in three ways. The very first is known as the well-known ports. These well-known ports are used by everyone for a specific purpose. Okay, so each port has given its address and its uses. Now, what range belongs to this well-known ports are 0 to 1023. Okay, or you can say there are total 1024 well-known ports or services which are being used and which everyone should aware. Now the next second range is that 1024 to 4900 and 151. These are the registered ports. Okay, so these registered ports are used for, you can say, for the uh, legitimate purpose or with the organizations. Now the remaining ports, that is 490152 to 65535, are the dynamic or private ports. So these are the ports which organizations, or you can say private sectors, can use as per their need, what services or what application they want to run in this third port. Okay, so now we are aware that whether we are using FTP port, HTTP port, or HTTPS, they all belong to the well-known ports. Okay, because these are the actual ports or the services which everyone needs. Okay, so you can also say that these ports are reserved for specific services. Now, what states are there? Okay, so usually these ports are divided in four states, the common four state. But now we are talking about five state, that is open port, closed port, filtered port, unfiltered port, and last but not the least is open but filtered and closed but also filtered port. Now let's talk about this one by one. So the very first open port. So from this open statement only you can get to know that this particular application or services are active and listening. Okay, that means you are able to communicate to that specific service on the network. Okay, now when it states that there is a closed port, that means there might be chances that the port itself is running but it's not reachable to us. Okay, or we are not able to make a communication, or we are not able to respond or connect to that port. Okay, now a filtered port. What is actually a filtered port? So filtered port is nothing, it might be open or closed based on the firewall rules or network security, or you can say any kind of mechanism which has been deployed by the organization. But a filtered port is open or closed is depend on the reachability, whether the network person only reachable to that port, or it's only outgoing traffic can communicate. Okay, so there are certain firewall rules on that this statement, or you can say this services or state delivered to us, that the port is being filtered. Now if you are talking about the unfiltered, so in unfiltered you cannot say whether the port is actually open or closed. Okay, but while using the nmap we are still trying to communicate or respond to that port. So it makes us aware that whether we are reachable to that port or not. Okay, so we are trying to get status about the port from this unfiltered state. Now there is an additional state, that is open filtered or close filtered. So what is this statement actually mean is that there might be some ports which are definitely available. Okay, and it's open, but there are certain firewall rules or configuration has been made, so everyone may not you can say everyone may not communicate with this port. Or if there are chances this port are closed, and also this particular port is running or the service is running in the network but we are not able to communicate. Okay, so that's the reason we should know what actually the port means, what are the different port state. So I hope you are clear about each and every statement, that the filtered port, unfiltered port, with open and closed statement, we are using more in case of enabling the rules on the firewall and on the very wide range of network. So over here, to check this state we can use a very high or advanced command, that is firewalk for firewall reachability. So we will see all the stuff in the practical scenario. So thank you so much, have a nice day.